I'm Caitlin, 28, and until last month, my brother Travis was my best friend. When he introduced me to Bianca, his now fiancée, I was thrilled. His happiness meant everything to me. But beneath Bianca's perfect smile lurked something sinister that I discovered too late. The bruises on my face have started to fade, but the pain of reading Travis's text from my hospital bed still feels fresh. Stay away from us. You've done enough damage. If you've ever had someone you love choose your abuser over you, you know this particular kind of heartbreak. Before I dive into my story, let me know where you're watching from and hit subscribe so we can support each other through life's unexpected betrayals. Travis and I weren't just siblings by blood, we were each other's constant. 2 years older, I naturally fell into the protective big sister role, but our bond truly solidified when our parents' marriage crumbled. I was 16, Travis just 14, when the divorce finalized. Mom dove into work to manage financially, while Dad moved 3 states away with his new girlfriend. Suddenly, we only had each other to lean on. Those first few months were brutal. I'd find Travis in his room, headphones blasting to drown out his thoughts, eyes red but dry. He never wanted me to see him cry. I'd sit beside him, shoulder to shoulder, sometimes talking, sometimes just being there. We created our own little world of safety amidst the chaos. "Kate," he said one night when I brought him hot chocolate after Mom had taken an overnight shift, "do you think we're going to be okay?" "I know we are," I'd answered, with more confidence than I felt. "We've got each other, haven't we?" That became our unspoken pact. When everything else fell apart, we had each other's backs. When senior year came around and college applications loomed, I spent weekends helping Travis narrow down schools and revise essays. Though I delayed my own college plans to work and help Mom with bills, I was determined Travis would get his degree without interruption. The night his acceptance letter arrived from his top-choice university, he insisted we celebrate, even though it was just discount pizza on our worn living room couch. "This is yours too, Kate," he'd said, raising his soda can in a toast. "I wouldn't be here without you." Those 4 years of college, I drove 3 hours each way once a month to visit him, bringing care packages and taking him to proper meals. When he struggled with choosing a major, switching from business to communications and panicking about his future, I listened without judgment. Eventually, he found his path in marketing and thrived. Travis returned the support when my 5-year relationship with Jeremy imploded spectacularly. Jeremy, who I'd thought was the one, had been cheating with a coworker for months. I discovered them together when I surprised him at his apartment on his birthday. That night, Travis drove 4 hours to my apartment after my tearful call, arriving at 2 a.m. with ice cream and my favorite movies. He slept on my uncomfortable couch for a week, making sure I ate and helping me box up Jeremy's things. When I couldn't sleep, plagued by replaying memories and questions of what I'd done wrong, Travis would sit with me, reminding me of my worth. "He didn't deserve you, Kate." "Never did," Travis insisted. "Someday you'll find someone who sees how amazing you are." Our weekly sibling dinners began shortly after I moved to the same city as Travis following his graduation. Every Thursday, rain or shine, we'd meet at one of our apartments or try a new restaurant. These dinners were sacred, a time to decompress, share our weeks, offer advice, or simply enjoy being together. When I struggled through my physical therapy certification exams, failing the first attempt, those Thursday dinners became my lifeline. "You're going to be the best PT this city has ever seen," Travis had said while helping me study for my retake. "Your patients will be lucky to have you." His unwavering faith in me made all the difference. I passed on my second try and secured a position at a respected rehabilitation center. Beyond the serious support, we shared countless moments of pure joy. Our shared love of hiking led to weekend adventures exploring trails throughout the state. Travis had an uncanny ability to find hidden gems, secluded waterfalls, perfect sunrise spots, trails less traveled. On my birthday 3 years ago, he surprised me with a guided backpacking trip to Glacier National Park, something I'd always dreamed of doing. We had our own language, really inside jokes that made no sense to outsiders, but would reduce us to tears of laughter. Like how purple elephants became our code for awkward social situations after an embarrassing incident at one of Travis's work functions. Or our tradition of sending each other the most absurdly ugly Christmas ornaments we could find each year, trying to outdo the previous year's monstrosity. There was nothing we couldn't talk about. When Travis dated Melissa in college, I heard every detail of their relationship and eventual breakup. When he was nervous about a big presentation at work, I talked him through it the night before. When he questioned his career path during a particularly difficult project, I helped him weigh his options. For nearly a decade after our parents' divorce, Travis and I created the family support system we needed. We built holiday traditions when our parents were absent or difficult. We celebrated each other's victories and weathered disappointments together. Through roommates, relationships, career changes, and health scares, our bond remained unshakable. Or so I thought. Looking back now, I realize how quickly everything changed after Travis met Bianca. The shifts were subtle at first, a missed call here, a rescheduled dinner there. What I didn't recognize then was that the foundation of our relationship was being systematically dismantled, brick by brick. The Thursday before he met Bianca, Travis had called me in the middle of a workday just to tell me about a dog he'd seen that looked exactly like our childhood pet. 2 months after meeting her, he forgot my birthday for the first time in our adult lives. I should have seen it coming. But when someone has been your constant for so long, you can't imagine them ever not being there. You don't prepare for the possibility of losing them, especially not to someone who would eventually leave me bloodied on the floor of my brother's apartment. Travis met Bianca 10 months ago during a marketing conference where his agency was presenting. He'd mentioned meeting someone interesting during our next dinner, but I didn't think much of it until he asked if she could join us the following week. That was unusual. Travis typically dated casually and rarely introduced me to anyone unless it was getting serious. She works in brand strategy for a competing agency, he explained, seeming almost nervous. She's brilliant, Kate. And beautiful. I really want you to like her. When Bianca walked into the restaurant, I understood his infatuation immediately. She was stunning, tall, and graceful, with an impeccable sense of style. Her smile seemed to light up the room, and she carried herself with incredible confidence. Throughout dinner, she was charming and articulate, asking thoughtful questions about my work as a physical therapist and sharing amusing stories from her own career. Travis has told me so much about you, Bianca said warmly. Your relationship is so special. I've never seen siblings so close. I left that dinner impressed and genuinely happy for Travis. Finally, he'd met someone who seemed worthy of him. Yet there were small moments that evening that should have registered as warning signs. Like how Bianca casually picked up Travis's phone when it buzzed, checking the notification before handing it back. Or how she subtly steered the conversation away when Travis began telling a story about his ex-girlfriend. Over the next few weeks, their relationship progressed at warp speed. Travis was completely captivated, spending every free moment with Bianca. By the 1-month mark, they were practically living together, with Travis staying at her place most nights. Our weekly dinners became bi-weekly, then monthly, as he was just so busy with work and Bianca. The first real red flag appeared at a casual barbecue at my apartment. I'd invited several mutual friends, excited for them to meet Bianca. While Travis was grilling, I noticed Bianca scrolling through his phone. When she saw me watching, she laughed lightly. Just checking his Instagram. He's terrible at responding to comments, she explained. Later that same evening, when Travis mentioned a work trip to Chicago the following month, Bianca's entire demeanor changed. Who else is going? She asked, her voice casual, but her eyes sharp. The usual team, Travis replied. Me, Darren, Lisa, and probably Jenna from accounting. Lisa? Bianca's smile remained fixed. The one who always likes your social media posts? Travis laughed it off, but I saw how his posture changed, more guarded, more careful. She's married with 3 kids, Bianca. We're just colleagues. That night, Bianca managed to sprinkle several backhanded compliments throughout our conversations. You're so brave to wear those shorts with your thighs, Caitlin. I wish I had your confidence, and your apartment has such potential. Have you thought about updating it? Each comment was delivered with a perfect smile, making it impossible to call out without seeming oversensitive. By the time everyone left, I felt vaguely insulted but couldn't pinpoint exactly why. 3 months into their relationship, our traditional sibling dinner was canceled for the third consecutive time. Travis texted an hour before. Bianca surprised me with concert tickets. Can we reschedule? So sorry. When we finally did meet the following week, Bianca coincidentally called with an emergency just as Travis and I were catching up. He spent 30 minutes helping her navigate a minor work crisis while our food grew cold. This pattern repeated itself. Anytime Travis and I managed to schedule time alone, Bianca would somehow interrupt. Travis's best friend Darren voiced concerns after a guy's night out was cut short because Bianca repeatedly called claiming she didn't feel well. Dude, she called 11 times in 2 hours, Darren told Travis, not realizing I could overhear from the kitchen. That's not normal. She's just going through a stressful time at work, Travis defended. She needs me right now. Within 5 months, Travis's social circle had shrunk dramatically. He missed fantasy football for the first time in 6 years. He backed out of the annual camping trip with his college friends. He even skipped our cousin's wedding because Bianca had already made plans that weekend. I began noticing other concerning changes in my brother. The Travis I knew was confident, quick to laugh, and passionate about his hobbies. This new Travis seemed constantly on edge, checking his phone compulsively and second-guessing himself. Do you think this shirt looks okay? He asked once before we met friends for drinks. Bianca says blue makes me look washed out. Travis had worn blue his entire life. It was his favorite color. When I gently suggested that Bianca seemed possessive, Travis became immediately defensive. She just wants to spend time with me. That's normal in a relationship, he insisted. You're being judgmental because you're single. That stung, especially coming from Travis. He'd never used my relationship status against me before. The most alarming moment came at a family dinner 6 months into their relationship. Bianca monopolized the conversation, speaking for Travis and correcting him multiple times. Travis doesn't like seafood, she declared when he reached for the shrimp appetizer. I've always liked shrimp, he said, looking confused. No, honey, you told me shellfish makes you feel bloated, Bianca insisted with a tight smile. Travis withdrew his hand and didn't touch the appetizer. After just 7 months of dating, Travis announced their engagement. He didn't tell me first as I'd always expected. I found out via Bianca's elaborate Instagram post. When I called him, shocked, he seemed almost apologetic. It just felt right, he said, sounding less certain than I'd expect from someone who had just proposed. Bianca said, why wait when you know? By then, the vivacious, independent brother I'd known my entire life had become a shadow of himself. But I still didn't realize just how dangerous things would become. The engagement accelerated Bianca's controlling behavior exponentially. Within days, she had created detailed wedding planning spreadsheets and timelines, booking venues and vendors without Travis's input. When I asked about being involved in the planning, as Travis and I had always talked about, Bianca smiled tightly. We've got it handled, she said. Besides, I'm sure you're too busy with your little therapy job to take on anything else. At their engagement party, which Bianca had organized at an upscale venue neither Travis nor I would have chosen, I tried to give a heartfelt toast about my brother. Bianca interrupted halfway through, taking the microphone. Let's keep things moving along, she said with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. We've got a schedule to keep. Later that evening, as I was speaking with Travis's college roommate Keith, Bianca approached with 2 glasses of red wine. As she handed one to Keith, she tripped, spilling the other glass down the front of my cream-colored dress. Oh my goodness, she exclaimed, making a show of dabbing at the stain with a cocktail napkin, effectively grinding the wine deeper into the fabric. How clumsy of me. Thank goodness, it's just an old dress. It wasn't old. Travis knew I'd bought it specially for the occasion and had commented on how nice it looked earlier. When I met his eyes across the room, he quickly looked away. The next day, I tried to talk to Travis about the incident. It really seemed intentional, Trav. And she's been making these little digs at me constantly. You're being paranoid, he snapped. Bianca went out of her way to include you in our special day, and you're creating drama. The wine was an accident. This isn't like you, I said, hurt by his tone. You've never spoken to me this way. Maybe I'm just finally standing up for myself, he retorted. Not everything is about you, Caitlin. I left his apartment feeling like I'd been slapped. In all our years of occasional sibling arguments, Travis had never been cruel. Something was deeply wrong. Over the next few weeks, I began hearing from relatives that Bianca had been sharing concerning observations about me. Aunt Paula called to ask if everything was okay, mentioning that Bianca had confided that I was struggling with jealousy over Travis's relationship. Uncle Steve asked if I needed financial help after Bianca mentioned I was having trouble making ends meet at my entry-level job, despite my established career as a senior physical therapist. Rumors circulated that I was bitter about being single, unstable after my breakup with Jeremy, which had been 3 years earlier, and possessive of Travis to an unhealthy degree. These whispers created a narrative that any concerns I raised about Bianca would be attributed to my own issues rather than her behavior. One evening, I stopped by Travis's apartment to drop off a birthday gift for him. Through the partially open window, I heard Bianca's voice, sharp with manipulation. I just don't understand why she needs to call you so often, she was saying, her voice trembling with manufactured tears. It's like she can't accept that you have your own life now. Do you know how it makes me feel when your sister always comes first? You come first, Bianca, Travis assured her, his voice weary. I'll talk to Caitlin. It's just that your relationship with her isn't normal, Travis. Everyone says so. It's almost inappropriate how clingy she is. I stood frozen, my gift bag hanging limply from my fingers. Inappropriate? Clingy? I'd given Travis space, backed off our regular dinners, supported his relationship even when I had concerns. Bianca was deliberately creating a wedge between us, painting our close sibling relationship as something problematic. Meanwhile, Bianca's social media portrayed a picture-perfect relationship. Photos of Travis gazing adoringly at her, captions about finding her perfect partner and soulmate, elaborate date nights she orchestrated primarily for Instagram. The comments section overflowed with envy from her followers, praising their relationship goals. The reality I glimpsed was starkly different. Travis looked perpetually exhausted. He'd lost weight. His easy laugh had been replaced by a nervous chuckle that appeared mostly when checking if Bianca approved of his comments. He constantly checked his phone, jumping whenever it chimed with her messages. Worried, I began researching emotional manipulation and controlling relationships. The patterns I found matched Bianca's behavior alarmingly well: isolation from friends and family, constant monitoring, emotional blackmail, undermining self-confidence, and creating dependency. I was witnessing classic signs of an emotionally abusive relationship developing right before my eyes. I tried one more time to reach Travis, suggesting lunch at his favorite deli. To my surprise, he agreed and showed up alone. Carefully, I broached the topic of healthy relationships. I just want to make sure you're happy, Trav. Sometimes love can blind us to dynamics that aren't healthy. What are you talking about? He asked, immediately defensive. Just that relationships should make you feel better, not worse. You seem so stressed lately, always checking your phone, walking on eggshells. That's ridiculous, he said, but his eyes darted to his phone, which had just lit up with Bianca's text. I've never been happier. Remember how you told me I deserved better when Jeremy controlled who I could see and criticized my choices? That's what healthy love looks like. This is completely different, Travis interrupted, standing abruptly. Bianca loves me. She's helping me become a better person. I thought you'd be supportive, but you're just jealous that I have someone and you don't. He left before our food arrived. Later that night, I sent him a gentle text: I love you and only want what's best for you. A healthy relationship shouldn't isolate you from people who care about you or make you feel anxious all the time. I'm here whenever you want to talk. It was a critical mistake. The next day, Bianca called me, her voice ice cold. I saw your text to Travis. How dare you imply our relationship is unhealthy? You're trying to poison him against me because you can't stand not being the most important person in his life anymore. Bianca, I'm concerned about the changes I've seen in my brother. "Stay out of our relationship," she hissed. "Travis and I have discussed your inappropriate attachment to him. He agrees it's time for you to back off and let him live his life. If you keep interfering, you'll lose him completely." That night, Travis called, clearly with Bianca beside him on speakerphone. His voice was mechanical as he told me I needed to respect boundaries and stop undermining his relationship. When I tried to explain my concerns, he cut me off. "Bianca is going to be my wife, Caitlin. If you can't support that 100%. Despite the growing tension, when Bianca asked me to be a bridesmaid, I accepted immediately. Not because I supported the marriage, but because I feared being cut out of Travis's life completely if I refused. I hoped that being involved in the wedding would give me opportunities to reconnect with my brother and perhaps help him see Bianca's true nature before it was too late. I quickly discovered this was exactly what Bianca wanted, to have me close where she could control and humiliate me under the guise of wedding preparations. "We're having a bachelorette weekend in Aspen," she announced during the first bridal party meeting. "Each bridesmaid needs to contribute $1,500 for accommodations, plus airfare and spending money." When I mentioned the cost was steep for a weekend, Bianca's perfectly plucked eyebrows rose. "If it's too much for you, Caitlin, we'll understand. Not everyone prioritizes Travis's special day the way they should." The bridesmaid dresses were another calculated move. While her sorority sisters and cousins received flattering styles and complementary colors, mine was a garish orange that Bianca insisted brought out my complexion. "Orange is the only color that works with your skin tone," she said sweetly as I stood uncomfortable in the boutique. "The other girls can pull off the pastels, but you need something stronger." The dress was not only unflattering, but required extensive alterations that I had to pay for myself. When it was finally ready, I discovered it was significantly tighter than the others, despite providing my correct measurements. "Did you gain weight?" Bianca asked loudly in front of the other bridesmaids. We could try to let it out more, but honestly, maybe this is motivation to tone up before the wedding? Travis, who once would have immediately defended me, said nothing when I told him about these interactions. "Wedding planning is stressful," was his only response. Try to be more supportive of Bianca. The cake tasting, which traditionally would have included the bride, groom, and close family, somehow became just Bianca and her mother. The menu selection, which Travis had been excited about as a food enthusiast, was delegated to Bianca's father because Travis didn't have the palate for it. When I pointed out how Travis was being sidelined in his own wedding planning, he shrugged. "Bianca knows what she's doing. I trust her judgment." The final straw came during a conversation with Lisa, Travis's coworker, at a work function I attended in place of Bianca, who had claimed a migraine at the last minute. Lisa mentioned that Bianca had worked at their competing agency before. "Didn't Travis tell you about the drama?" Lisa asked, surprised. "She left under really weird circumstances after her engagement to the creative director fell apart. There were all kinds of rumors about her behavior. This was the first I'd heard of a previous engagement." Travis had told me Bianca had been single for 2 years before meeting him, focusing on her career. Curiosity piqued. I did some digging. Through social media connections and a few discreet conversations with industry contacts, I learned Bianca had been engaged to Jason Murray, a respected creative director, 18 months before meeting Travis. Their relationship had followed a similar whirlwind pattern: quick romance, rapid engagement, controlling behavior. Jason had eventually broken things off after becoming isolated from friends and family and experiencing what he described to mutual friends as emotional terrorism. Most concerning were the parallels in how Bianca had systematically alienated Jason from his sister, whom he'd been close with. According to one colleague, Bianca had spread rumors that Jason's sister was mentally unstable and jealous of their relationship, exactly what was happening with me and Travis. I gathered everything I learned. Screenshots of old social media posts Bianca had deleted, testimonials from colleagues who had witnessed her manipulation, and evidence of her lies about her past. I also compiled a timeline of Travis's behavioral changes since meeting Bianca, instances of her controlling behavior, and the isolation tactics she'd employed. This wasn't just about protecting my relationship with Travis anymore. It was about trying to save my brother from what I now recognized as an emotionally abusive relationship that was escalating in concerning ways. I texted Travis asking to meet at our favorite hiking trail, neutral territory where we'd always had our most honest conversations. Initially, he agreed, but the night before, he texted to change locations. Can't do the hike. Let's meet at my apartment instead. Bianca has a spa day scheduled, so we'll have privacy. 2 p.m. Something felt off about the change, but I was so eager to talk to Travis that I agreed. I arrived at his apartment building at exactly 2 p.m., my folder of evidence tucked under my arm, heart pounding with anticipation and anxiety. I had rehearsed what to say a dozen times, focusing on expressing concern rather than accusation. When Travis's door opened, my heart sank. Instead of my brother, Bianca stood in the doorway, immaculately dressed despite her supposed spa appointment. Travis got called into an emergency meeting, she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. He asked me to let you know he's running late. Why don't you come in and wait? Every instinct told me to leave, but if there was a chance Travis would arrive soon, I needed to stay. I reluctantly stepped inside, clutching my folder tightly. What's that? Bianca asked, eyeing the folder. Just some physical therapy resources for one of Travis's coworkers, I lied, sensing danger. Really? Her tone was dangerously soft. Because it looks like the folder I saw you carrying when you were talking to Lisa at the company party. The same night you were asking questions about me. My stomach dropped. She knew exactly why I was there. Travis isn't coming, is he? I asked, backing toward the door. Bianca's pleasant mask slipped, revealing the coldness beneath. No, he isn't. But we're going to have a little chat about your interference in our relationship. And about that folder. I should have left immediately. Instead, I made the mistake of standing my ground, not realizing just how dangerous the situation had become. You've been trying to come between Travis and me from the beginning, Bianca said, her voice eerily calm as she moved between me and the door. Always calling, always needing him, playing the devoted sister while trying to sabotage our happiness. That's not true, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. I want Travis to be happy. I'm concerned because I've seen significant changes in him that aren't healthy. You mean changes like finally growing up? Not being at your beck and call? Having a real relationship instead of an unhealthy codependent bond with his sister. I took a deep breath. Bianca, healthy relationships don't involve isolation or control. They don't make someone constantly anxious or afraid of saying the wrong thing. Her eyes flickered to the folder I was still holding. Give me that, she demanded, stepping toward me. No, I said firmly, tucking it behind my back. This is for Travis. What did you do? Stalk me? Dig up dirt? Create lies? Her voice rose with each question. You really are pathetic, Caitlin. Can't stand that Travis finally has someone more important than you. This isn't about me, I insisted. It's about the pattern of behavior you've displayed with Travis and with Jason Murray. The mention of her ex-fiancé's name was like flipping a switch. Bianca's face contorted with rage. You had no right to talk to him. No right to interfere in my life. She lunged for the folder, grabbing my wrist and twisting hard. Pain shot up my arm as I tried to pull away. Bianca, stop. You're hurting me. Give me the folder, she demanded, her nails digging into my skin. No. I tried to push past her toward the door, but she blocked my path. What happened next was so quick and violent that it still comes back in fragmented flashes. Bianca shoved me hard against the wall, my head snapping back and hitting the corner of a framed photo. Before I could recover, she grabbed my hair and yanked me forward, then slammed me backward again. You think you can ruin this for me? She hissed, her face inches from mine. Everything was perfect until you started poisoning Travis against me. I raised my arms to protect my face, dropping the folder in the process. Papers scattered across the floor. Screenshots of her deleted social media posts with Jason, testimonials from colleagues, the timeline of Travis's isolation. Seeing the evidence exposed seemed to fuel her rage even further. Bianca struck me across the face with an open palm, the impact so hard it made my ears ring. I stumbled sideways, disoriented, knocking into Travis's side table. A lamp crashed to the floor. "You're going to regret this," she spat, grabbing my shoulders and shoving me again. I lost my balance, falling awkwardly. My left wrist took the brunt of my weight as I hit the floor, a sickening crack accompanying a burst of white-hot pain. I cried out, cradling my injured wrist against my chest. Bianca stood over me, breathing heavily, fists still clenched. "No one will believe you," she said coldly. "Travis won't believe you. You're just his pathetic, jealous sister who can't let go." Through tears of pain, I saw her pick up my scattered evidence, crumpling pages and stuffing them into her pockets. She moved toward me again, and I braced for another attack when a sharp knock sounded at the door. "Everything okay in there?" a man's voice called. I heard shouting and something breaking. It was Mr. Sanderson, Travis's elderly neighbor. Bianca immediately straightened, smoothing her hair and clothes. She put on a concerned expression before opening the door slightly. "Everything's fine," she said sweetly. "My future sister-in-law had a bit too much to drink at lunch and took a fall. I'm helping her up now." I heard yelling, Mr. Sanderson insisted, trying to peer around her. "She gets emotional when she drinks," Bianca explained with a sad smile. "Family drama, you know how it is. I've got it under control." I tried to call out, but my voice was shaky with pain and shock. "Help," I managed weakly. "Please help me." Mr. Sanderson must have heard because he pushed the door wider despite Bianca's resistance. His eyes widened when he saw me on the floor, face already swelling, cradling my visibly broken wrist. "I'm calling 911, he announced, already pulling out his phone. "That's not necessary," Bianca insisted, her voice hardening. "She's fine." But Mr. Sanderson was already dialing, backing into the hallway where Bianca couldn't stop him. The next hours passed in a blur of pain and confusion. Paramedics arrived, then police. My injuries were documented: a concussion, broken wrist, facial contusions, and various bruises across my body. At the hospital, I gave my statement through waves of pain and shock, describing how Bianca had attacked me when I tried to share concerns about her relationship with my brother. Bianca gave a completely different account to the police. According to her, I had shown up uninvited, intoxicated and hysterical about their engagement. She claimed I'd attacked her in jealousy, and she'd merely defended herself, pushing me away when I lunged at her. She showed a small scratch on her arm as proof of my aggression. The evidence told a different story. The pattern of my injuries was consistent with being the recipient of an attack, not the aggressor. Mr. Sanderson's statement confirmed he'd heard sounds of a one-sided altercation. Most damning were the security cameras in the hallway of Travis's apartment building, which had captured me arriving sober and composed, carrying only my folder, no alcohol in sight. Through it all, one person was conspicuously absent: Travis. He didn't answer the hospital's calls. He didn't respond to messages from the police. It wasn't until the second day of my hospitalization, as I was being fitted for a cast on my wrist, that my phone finally showed a message from my brother. With my good hand, I eagerly opened it, expecting concern, shock, maybe even an apology for not being there sooner. Instead, the words that appeared on my screen felt like another physical blow. "Stay away from us. You've done enough damage." I stared at the phone in disbelief, tears blurring my vision. After everything we'd been through together, after the physical evidence of what Bianca had done to me, Travis was choosing to believe her lies. The realization that I'd not only lost my brother to Bianca's manipulation, but that he actually blamed me for the violence I'd suffered was more painful than any of my physical injuries. A nurse found me sobbing, clutching my phone with my uninjured hand. She gently took it from me, reading the message with a frown. "Family can be the ones who hurt us the most," she said softly, setting the phone aside and adjusting my fore. "But right now, your job is to heal. The rest will sort itself out in time." I wasn't sure I believed her. As I lay in that hospital bed, bruised and broken, I couldn't imagine how anything would ever be right again. The hospital discharge felt surreal. Without Travis, I had no family to help me home. Thankfully, my friend Alicia, a nurse who worked on a different floor of the hospital, offered to take me to my apartment and stay the first night. As she helped me settle in, the full weight of my situation began to sink in. "Have you considered pressing charges?" Alicia asked gently, arranging my pain medication on the nightstand. "I gave my statement to the police," I said numbly. "But Bianca is denying everything. And Travis." My voice caught on his name. "Travis believes her." "That doesn't change what she did to you," Alicia pointed out. "The evidence is on your side, Caitlin. Your injuries, the neighbor's testimony, the security footage showing you weren't drunk like she claimed." She was right, but the thought of pursuing legal action against the woman my brother planned to marry felt like I would be severing what tenuous connection remained between us. Still, as the days passed and the reality of my injuries impacted every aspect of my life, anger began to replace my initial shock and heartbreak. As a physical therapist, I worked with my hands. My broken wrist meant 6 weeks without income. The concussion left me with debilitating headaches and difficulty concentrating. Every time I looked in the mirror, the fading bruises on my face reminded me of Bianca's violence and Travis's betrayal. A week after the assault, I called Dominic Parker, an attorney a colleague had recommended. He specialized in domestic violence and assault cases and agreed to meet with me the same day. "What happened to you is serious," Dominic said after reviewing my medical records and police report. "Assault and battery, potentially aggravated assault given the extent of your injuries. We have strong evidence to pursue both criminal charges and a restraining order." "Will it actually go anywhere?" I asked. "She's already spinning a story that I was the aggressor. The physical evidence contradicts her version of events," he explained. "Your injuries are consistent with being attacked, not with being the attacker. And we have the neighbor's testimony about what he heard, plus the security footage showing your condition before and after entering the apartment." I left his office with paperwork for a restraining order and the promise that he would help me navigate pressing criminal charges. The decision felt empowering after days of helplessness. That evening, I received a text from an unknown number. "I heard what happened with Bianca. We should talk. Jason Murray." My heart raced. Jason was Bianca's ex-fiancé, the creative director she'd been engaged to before Travis. I hadn't been able to contact him directly during my initial research, only gathering second-hand accounts of their relationship. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop near my apartment the next day. Jason was immediately recognizable from the photos I'd seen, tall with dark-rimmed glasses and a serious expression that softened when he introduced himself. "I wish we were meeting under different circumstances," he said, gently shaking my uninjured hand. His eyes lingered on my cast and the fading bruises on my face. Though I can't say I'm entirely surprised. Over the next hour, Jason detailed his 15-month relationship with Bianca. The pattern was eerily similar to what had happened with Travis: a whirlwind romance, rapid engagement, gradual isolation from friends and family, particularly his sister Melanie, who Bianca had characterized as unstable and obsessively attached to Jason. The breaking point was when Melanie showed up at my apartment with a black eye, Jason explained grimly. She claimed Bianca had attacked her when she tried to warn me about some concerning behavior she'd witnessed. Bianca insisted Melanie had shown up drunk and fallen, injuring herself. "Who did you believe?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Bianca, at first," he admitted, shame evident in his voice. "She was very convincing, and she'd spent months telling me Melanie was mentally unwell and jealous of our relationship. It took security footage from my building showing Melanie arriving completely sober to make me question Bianca's story. The parallels were chilling." "Did you press charges?" "Melanie did. Bianca ended up with community service and mandated anger management, which she never completed. She left the agency right after we broke up. I heard she claimed constructive dismissal and threatened a lawsuit, which they settled quietly." He paused. "I should have warned your brother somehow. I just never thought she'd escalate to physical violence again." "I finished for him." Jason nodded solemnly. "I'd be willing to testify about the pattern of behavior I witnessed. Melanie would too, I'm certain." This conversation gave me the final push I needed. The next day, I formally pressed charges against Bianca for assault. I also reached out to Travis's best friend Darren, who had been similarly pushed out of my brother's life. "I've been worried sick about him," Darren confessed when we met for lunch. "He's not the same person anymore. He barely responds to texts, never wants to grab a beer or watch the game. The few times I've seen him, Bianca is always there, monitoring everything he says." "Has he mentioned what happened between Bianca and me?" I asked. Darren looked uncomfortable. "He told me you showed up at his place drunk and got aggressive with Bianca when she asked you to leave. That you fell and hurt yourself, then tried to blame her." He met my eyes directly. I didn't believe it for a second. "You don't drink heavily, and I've never known you to be aggressive with anyone." With Dominic's help, I created a comprehensive timeline documenting Bianca's pattern of behavior. The isolation tactics, the manipulation, the escalating control over Travis, and finally, the violence against me. I included testimonials from Jason and Melanie about their similar experiences, statements from Travis's friends about the changes they'd observed in him, and medical documentation of my injuries. Through it all, I grappled with conflicting emotions. Part of me wanted to abandon the legal process to preserve any chance of reconciliation with Travis. Another part recognized that true reconciliation could only happen if Bianca's abusive behavior was exposed and addressed. My therapist, Dr. Winters, helped me work through these feelings during our sessions. "You're not responsible for the choices Travis makes," she reminded me gently. "By holding Bianca accountable, you're not just standing up for yourself. You're creating a record that might help Travis recognize the situation he's in." "But what if this pushes him away permanently?" I asked, voicing my deepest fear. "Your relationship with Travis was damaged the moment Bianca began her campaign to isolate him," Dr. Winters pointed out. "Not by any action you took. Healthy relationships don't require cutting off long-time bonds with family and friends." As the court date approached, I experienced increasing anxiety about facing both Bianca and Travis. Would he even attend? Would he continue to believe her version of events despite the evidence? The night before the hearing, I barely slept, rehearsing what I would say, wondering if any of it would make a difference. I had lost weight since the assault, my clothes hanging loosely on my frame. The circles under my eyes spoke of countless sleepless nights. But as I dressed for court that morning, I felt a steely resolve beneath my exhaustion. Whatever happened, I would no longer be a silent victim of Bianca's manipulation and violence. "You've got this," Alicia reassured me, squeezing my good hand as we walked into the courthouse. "The truth is on your side." I desperately wanted to believe her. But as I spotted Travis sitting beside Bianca in the courtroom, his face set in angry lines I barely recognized, I wondered if the truth alone would be enough. The courtroom felt impossibly small as I took my seat beside Dominic. Across the aisle, Bianca sat perfectly composed in a conservative navy dress, the picture of an innocent victim wrongfully accused. Beside her, Travis stared straight ahead, refusing to meet my gaze. The brother who had once been my best friend now looked at me like a stranger, worse, like an enemy. When called to testify, I recounted the events clearly despite my nervousness, my concerns about Travis's relationship, the research I'd done into Bianca's past, the meeting that was supposed to be with Travis, and the violent assault that followed when Bianca realized what I knew. Throughout my testimony, I focused on the facts, keeping my voice steady even as I described how it felt to read Travis's text message from my hospital bed. Bianca's testimony painted a completely different picture. In her version, I was a jealous sister unable to accept my brother's happiness, who had shown up uninvited and intoxicated, making wild accusations before physically attacking her. She claimed self-defense, insisting she had merely pushed me away, and I had fallen due to my alleged intoxication. "Caitlin has always been possessive of Travis," she told the court, her voice catching with practiced emotion. She couldn't stand that he was building a life that didn't revolve around her. Travis nodded along with her statements, his expression hardening whenever he glanced my way. His support of her narrative despite the evidence felt like knives in my heart. The turning point came when Dominic presented the security footage from Travis's apartment building. The video clearly showed me arriving sober and composed, carrying only my folder of research. More importantly, it showed me leaving, or rather, being helped out by paramedics, with visible injuries that couldn't possibly have resulted from a simple fall. Mr. Sanderson's testimony corroborated what the footage suggested. I heard a woman yelling things like, "You'll regret this, and no one will believe you," he stated firmly. Then thuds and crashes, like furniture being knocked over. When I saw Caitlin on the floor, she was clearly terrified and seriously hurt. The security footage and neighbors' testimony created the first visible crack in Travis's certainty. I watched his face as he viewed the video, saw his brow furrow in confusion when presented with evidence that contradicted Bianca's story. When Jason Murray took the stand, Travis's attention sharpened further. Jason described his relationship with Bianca in detail. The isolation, the manipulation, the assault on his sister that had finally opened his eyes to the abuse. "The pattern is identical," Jason stated. Bianca targeted Caitlin the same way she targeted my sister Melanie, by painting her as mentally unstable and unhealthily attached. By the time the physical violence occurred, she had already established a narrative that made her victim seem unreliable. Melanie's testimony followed, her description of Bianca's assault so similar to my own experience that it sent chills through the courtroom. She showed photographs of her injuries from 3 years prior, a black eye, bruised ribs, defensive wounds on her arms. Throughout these testimonies, I watched Travis's face change, confusion giving way to doubt, then shock as the weight of evidence mounted. When Bianca whispered urgently to him, he pulled away slightly, his eyes fixed on the photographs of Melanie's injuries that mirrored my own. The final blow to Bianca's defense came from an unexpected quarter. Lisa from Travis's workplace had come forward with emails showing Bianca had accessed Travis's work account to cancel the supposed emergency meeting that had prevented him from meeting me that day. She had orchestrated the entire confrontation, ensuring Travis wouldn't be present. When the judge announced his ruling, finding Bianca guilty of assault and granting my request for a restraining order, I felt a complex mixture of validation and sadness. Justice had been served, but at what cost to my relationship with Travis? As the courtroom cleared, I gathered my belongings slowly, unsure what to say to my brother if he approached. For several minutes, it seemed he wouldn't. He stood in the hallway, hands shoved in his pockets, conflict evident on his face. Bianca's attorney was leading her toward the exit, her composed facade finally cracking into barely controlled fury. Just as I was about to leave, Travis stepped into my path. Up close, I could see the toll the past months had taken on him too: weight loss, dark circles under his eyes, a weariness that aged him beyond his years. "I don't know what to say," he began, his voice rough with emotion. "I should have been there. Should have seen, should have believed you." "Yes, you should have," I agreed quietly, not ready to offer easy forgiveness. "I've spent months believing her version of everything. Of you. Of us." He ran a hand through his hair in a gesture so familiar it made my chest ache. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. More sorry than I can ever express. It wasn't enough, not after everything that had happened. But it was a start." Over the following weeks, Travis and I began the painful process of rebuilding our shattered relationship. He broke off his engagement, moved to a new apartment, and began therapy to understand why he had been vulnerable to Bianca's manipulation and how he could have turned against me so completely. Our first attempts at reconnection were awkward, weighed down by hurt and betrayal on my side and guilt and shame on his. We started with short coffee meetings, progressing gradually to longer conversations where we began addressing the damage done. "I lost myself," Travis admitted during one such meeting. "Every time I doubted her or questioned something, she would twist it around until I felt guilty for even having those thoughts. It was easier to believe her than to face the possibility that I'd made such a terrible mistake." "I kept trying to reach you," I said. "But every attempt just seemed to push you further away." She had an explanation for everything. "Your concerns were jealousy. Your research was stalking. Your injuries were self-inflicted." He looked down at his hands. I know how insane that sounds now, but at the time, it felt like the only reality that made sense. It took 6 months before we attempted our first hike together, a gentle trail that accommodated my still-recovering wrist. The familiar rhythm of walking side by side in nature helped ease some of the tension between us, allowing for more honest conversation. "I don't think our relationship will ever be exactly the same," I acknowledged as we rested at a scenic overlook. "Too much has happened." "I know," Travis said quietly. "But maybe we can build something new. Something with better boundaries and more awareness of how precious it is." He was right. While the bond we'd shared could never be fully restored, we could create a new relationship founded on deeper understanding and respect for each other's autonomy. Travis was learning to recognize manipulation tactics and stand firm in his own perceptions. I was learning to establish healthier boundaries while still being supportive. The experience changed me profoundly. I developed a deeper understanding of how abusive relationships affect not just the primary victim, but their entire support network. I started volunteering at a domestic violence awareness organization, sharing my story to help others recognize the warning signs I had initially missed. Travis joined me for one of these speaking engagements, adding his perspective on how isolation and manipulation had affected him. His willingness to publicly acknowledge his experience helped other men recognize and address similar situations in their own lives. Today, 1 year after the assault, I still sometimes have nightmares about Bianca's attack. My wrist aches when the weather changes, a permanent reminder of that day. But I've reclaimed my sense of safety and my voice. I've learned that standing up for yourself sometimes means standing alone, at least temporarily. I've discovered strength I never knew I possessed. Travis and I meet for dinner once a month now, not the weekly gatherings of before, but meaningful connection nonetheless. We're more careful with each other, more appreciative of the relationship we've managed to salvage from the wreckage Bianca left behind. If there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this: trust your instincts about the relationships in your life and those of your loved ones. Manipulation and abuse thrive in isolation and silence. Speaking the truth may cost you temporarily, but the alternative, watching someone you love disappear into an abusive relationship while you say nothing, costs far more in the end. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself or someone you love in a difficult situation? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you or might help someone you know, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it. Your support helps these important conversations reach those who need them most. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, your instincts are often trying to tell you something important. Don't ignore them.